How much do I pay myself as a startup founder? In this video, I'll share my general philosophy around compensation as a founder, and I'll share my own salary as I build Taro. I've been an engineer in Silicon Valley for my entire career. First, a founding engineer at a startup, then at Pinterest, and then a staff engineer at Meta. But in all these cases, my salary was determined by my manager or some compensation team. If you start your own company, you are now the boss. You get to decide how much you get paid. And if you're new to entrepreneurship, that can feel almost like cheating. It's like you've been playing this game your whole career and you have these parameters that dictate how much you get paid. And now, as a startup founder, you get to decide the rules of that game. If you're thinking about starting your own company or you're just curious, here is my decision process to land on a salary. The answer to how much you should pay yourself as a founder is enough so your company is your top priority. As a founder, you'll own a huge amount of equity in your company. And that is your ticket to wealth creation. You should be getting rich by increasing the total value of your company, not by paying yourself a huge salary. For example, as the founder of Taro, I will only succeed, and I should only succeed, if Taro achieves its mission of helping millions of software engineers get better at their job through a premium membership program which brings together really high-quality discussion and mentorship. That means my focus is on creating a compelling product for software engineers around the world, not to worry about how much I'm getting paid or what our benefits plans are or how fancy our office might be. And so the tension is that you want your salary to be high enough such that you don't have to worry about basic needs around housing, food, and transportation, but you also want your salary to be low enough such that you give your startup the best chance to succeed. Here are 3 considerations when determining your salary. First, what is your burn rate? In any startup, you're going to have some amount of money coming in every month and some amount of money going out every month. Burn is the difference between these 2 numbers, revenue minus spend. Burn rate is important because it will dictate how long your company can survive. As an early stage startup, you probably have very little revenue, or perhaps no revenue at all. And if you're starting out, you're hopefully not paying for a bunch of products and services and office space. And that means that the spend component of the burn equation is going to be dominated by how much salary you're paying to the team. In the US, a reasonable benchmark for the full cost, the fully loaded cost of an employee is $10,000 a month. So if you have a team with 2 founders and 1 employee, the spend will be at least $30,000 a month just for paying off the salaries of these employees. If you've raised $500,000 for your company so far and your burn rate is $30,000 a month, then that means you have about 15 months, a bit more than a year, to either figure out how to get profitable or to show enough progress, enough traction such that you can go out and raise more money from venture capitalists. The challenge is that 15 months is not a long time to show progress. And that's where being frugal with salaries can give your startup more time to succeed. If we were able to reduce the spend per employee from $10K per month to $8K per month, we actually can extend our runway, given the $500,000 initial bank account, from 15 months to more than 20 months of runway. Being able to adjust your salary is basically a way of extending the clock in this startup game that you're playing. You have more time to make more shots on goal and more chances to succeed. The second factor to decide on salary is to understand the cash needs of each founder. For example, we're building Taro right here in Silicon Valley, which is a very high cost of living area. The average cost for a 1-bedroom apartment in San Francisco is $3,200 a month. And that means it's really hard to live here if you pay yourself below $50,000 a year. But that same $50K a year is a really comfortable life in other parts of the world, for example, in Thailand or Indonesia. Beyond cost of living in your geography, other considerations include if a founder has a family to support, how much savings they have from a previous job, and what their short-term financial goals are. For example, if one founder has 2 kids and a mortgage, then you have to expect that that person is going to require a much higher salary in order to live their life, unless they were previously wealthy from being an executive or having an exit at a previous company. It's not uncommon for the founding team to be at different life stages, which means that their cash needs are going to be different. At that point, the founders need to have a delicate conversation about how different their salary should be, and if they can make up that delta through other forms like equity or time commitment. And finally, the third consideration in determining your salary is optics. And I mean optics both internally in terms of working with your co-founders and employees, and also externally in terms of working with VCs. For internal optics, you want to avoid any resentment around pay disparity. And you want the founding team in particular to be on the same page about how much is everyone getting paid. Everyone should be able to explain why the gaps exist if there are any. Companies generally don't reveal salary information for all the employees, but one interesting thought experiment I've heard, and I think this is good advice, is to imagine what would happen if all the founders' salaries got revealed to the whole company. Would any of the employees be really upset? Or would you be able to explain in a reasonable way why the founders get paid the way they do. My personal philosophy here is that as the founder of the company, you should not be making more than the first couple employees that you hire. The founder has an outsized ownership in the company relative to the employees. So they should not be making significantly more than employees later on because they're having this huge upside if the company does well. The other dimension of optics is external. As an investor or a venture capitalist, my goal is to put money in your company and have it become huge. The way we become rich, both the investor and the founder, is by having the company be a huge multi-billion-dollar success story. If the founder is immediately taking the investment and paying themselves a market rate or above market rate salary, $200,000 or $250,000 a year, then that may cast some doubt on whether you really have the urgency to build a really big business. With all that said, the salary I set for myself is $100,000 a year. $100K is a nice even number, enough for me to live my normal life, but being in the Bay, I'm not saving that much money, and that's okay because I'm focused on building the company. Two other factors here. First, I've been working as a software engineer for about 9 years now in anticipation of startup life. And so I actually do have a good amount of money saved up, and I'm okay with the lower pay that comes with a startup. The second factor is that Taro is starting to generate some real revenue, which is, of course, amazing to see. We actually have hundreds of people who are now happily paying us every month in order to get help with promotion and onboarding. And given that we do have some non-trivial revenue coming in, that's another reason we can justify a 6-figure salary. We just went through the Y Combinator summer 2022 batch, and anecdotally from talking to other founders in the program, I would say that a $100,000 salary in the Bay was probably around the median or maybe even slightly above the median relative to what other founders pay themselves. There are two caveats to keep in mind here. First, some founders I talk to have a setup where they get non-wage forms of compensation. The company might pay for the apartment rent and lunch and dinner every single day. That means the founder salaries are lower on paper, but they get some nice tax benefits by getting paid in this way. For example, I talked to a group of 3 co-founders who are living in Oakland, and they're paying themselves a really low salary. It was like $30,000 a year. And the reason is because they have their housing and food taken care of by the company. And this is a good example of what I talked about at the beginning, where if you're the founder, you are setting the rules for the game. So you can do things like this that are pretty creative relative to what a standard big company might be able to offer. The second consideration here is how much you pay yourself will obviously depend on how much money you've raised. So typically with YC, most of the companies are coming in with only the $500K initial investment. But in the months after that, in demo day and beyond, most companies will end up raising a couple $1 million or more. And so at that point, of course, you can expect the founder salaries will go up. The more capital you raise, Series A, Series B, then you would expect that the cash component of your compensation should also go up. I'd love your feedback on what you think about the $100,000 a year salary that I'm paying myself. Is it too high, too low? Let me know in the comments what you think. And also let me know if there are other factors that go into the equation for how much to pay yourself that I didn't talk about in this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.